Welcome back to China Price Watch, where we're talking about attempts to reform the three public expenditures: government money spent whining, dining, and generally coddling public officials. With astronomical estimates of the cost of the expenditures floating around and public pressure mounting, the central government has begun to take baby steps to quell the rumors and public anger. Reforms have taken two paths: control of expenditures and publicizing government data on the expenditures. One of the most noteworthy attempts at limiting expenditures was the introduction of public servant cards, essentially a credit card designed to consolidate spending on the big three. These cards first came into play in 2007 and have just recently been pushed into use by a much wider range of officials. The cards are given annual spending limits between $3,200 and $8,000, with expenditures to be audited regularly. Giving public servants a public credit card might not seem like a step toward controlling costs, but it's intended to replace a far looser system. Prior to the public servant cards, officials merely handed over piles of easily falsified receipts to the relevant finance department. In a second and potentially more important step, the central government has called for all levels of government to publicize annual spending on the three expenditures. The State Council made this demand in 2011, and that year saw some of the first officially released data on the matter. Statistics purport to show slight declines in the three expenditures for the central government. According to government numbers, in 2011, the central government spent 9.36 billion yuan, or $1.47 billion, on the three expenditures. This is a slight decrease from 2010, when the government shelled out 9.47 billion yuan for its officials. In that year, approximately $256 million went to international travel, and $221 million was for entertaining officials. By far the largest expenditure was on government vehicles at almost $900 million. If government data is to be trusted, that would mean 2011 central government expenditures on the three public expenditures made up 0.2% of its income. If instead we look at total national income and use the widely circulated estimate of 900 billion yuan, nationally the three expenditures would make up over 1% of total government income. Provincial and local data on the three public expenditures has been slower to come out, but in central Shanxi province, 10 departments publicly released information, including the average spending per employee. The highest per-employee average came from the Provincial Transportation Department, which spent around $15,000 per employee. According to the data, most departments lived within their budgets, but some of the numbers are a little bit suspect. Unsurprisingly, the Provincial Statistics Department met all three of its budget targets exactly, down to the decimal place. Creative math or precise spending, we may never know. With spending data trickling out, analysts and academics have different takes on the progress made thus far. The Economic Information Daily called the publicizing of government data a, quote, epic-making event. Shu Kexin, a professor who researches government policy at the People's University, gushed over the reforms. Quote, "I believe this is a self-revolution in our party and in our country's economic system. It's a major action in Chinese history." But other analysts say that when placed in context, the reforms only attack a small part of the problem. Looked at in context, the reforms only target the most obvious and egregious use of public funds. In an extensive opinion piece for Caixin magazine, Wang Yongjun, dean of the Finance Research Institute at the Central University of Finance and Economics, critiqued government spending and the lack of public oversight. Quote, "The biggest problem lies in the public-private boundary. The current system leaves a huge gray area, which is especially obvious with the public budgeting system. Would taxpayers agree to using their money for the large housing subsidies paid for public servants? And how about when they build a new kindergarten that just happens to be in the community where local party leaders live? What exactly is the standard for benefits enjoyed by public officials? Even if all the details regarding the three public expenditures are released in a timely, comprehensive, and reliable way, which is highly unlikely, so what? The public-private dividing line is still blurry, and the standards are as flexible as ever." Don't go away, because up next on our question of the day, we ask ordinary Beijingers for their take on attempts to reform spending on the three public expenditures. Stay tuned.